A fresh wave of protests have hit Israel after the Knesset gave its nod to the first of many contested bills that restricts the judiciary from ruling on some of the government's decisions. The bill was adopted in its first reading by 64 votes against 56. According to reports, the protesters blocked a highway on the outskirts of Jerusalem, forcing the police to carry out arrests and detentions. Since January this year, waves of protests have hit Israel following Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's decision to introduce judicial reforms.
Understanding that it cannot continue like that. We must stop this. Really, people go outside and protest, because otherwise we won't have a country anymore, not at least democratic one.
I think that compromise is the best solution, but I don't think it's possible because I don't think the government wants to make a deal. I think they want going for the full play. They want the whole change. They want us not to be a democracy anymore.
The youth always are the ones that are making the change. They are also the future. So it's great to start now and understand now and help change things around there.
Jody Cohen is our correspondent in Israel. She's now joining us live from Tel Aviv to give us an update on these protests. Hi, Jody. Probably you can tell us what's the latest on the protests.
Hi, Eric. So the protesters launched this day of disruption. They began as early as 5:30 this morning, and from 7 o'clock they started to try to block the roads. Now, there have been sporadic pockets of protest blocking roads, but they have been short-lived. The main ones, of course, have been in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. Here I am at Kaplan Street, which is the largest protest in Tel Aviv. We've got protesters by the train station there, protesters blocking the roads here, but I have to say that is in coordination with the police. There have been some scuffles where protesters have tried to block other areas where they're not allowed to. There have been 18 people arrested here in this square. There's protests at the airport that's just been given approval by the Attorney General, and the protests are going to be going on all evening in multiple locations. Now, this is the 27th week of the protest. The protest organisers threatened that this would be the largest one that we've seen so far. It remains to be seen how the numbers will grow. But importantly, the Histadrut Labour Union has threatened to join in calling a strike if the bill is not halted in Parliament without talks. So we know that the Justice Committee is currently meeting in order to prepare for the second and third readings in Parliament. President Herzog has called for a return to the talks. It also has to be said that the big chain of malls backtrack on their announcements of a blanket shutdown today, and that was after a backlash from some employees and customers. So it's an important reminder that while many people are protesting, there are also many people who do support some sort of judicial reform, and the challenge is really going to be how to find a consensus.
Jody, is there a possibility or a likelihood that these protests are going to have any effect?
So the protests were credited with Prime Minister Netanyahu calling for a pause in that original judicial overhaul bill back in April. Really, that's because of the protests, because of the potential impact on the economy, because of reservists saying that they wouldn't go to do their reserve duty in the army, because of the high-tech sector saying that if the bill goes forward, then the economy will stop. And also, I have to say that all of that has an impression on the United States as well. So all of those things together are credited with Prime Minister Netanyahu pausing that original judicial overhaul bill. Whether or not it's successful this time remains to be seen. Whether or not we'll see a return to the talks. As I said, President Herzog has called for the talks to resume. Those were paused by the opposition over the judicial selection panel, saying that they're not going to resume talks until that panel resumes. And tomorrow, Parliament is going to be voting on the remaining seat for that committee. Benny Gantz, he's the first opposition party head to say that he would rejoin the talks. And remember, polls are showing that if an election was held today, that he would beat Prime Minister Netanyahu in an election. The head of the opposition, Yair Lapid, has also said that he would join talks. And the economy minister, Nir Barkat, he has indicated, he's from the Likud party, he has indicated also that after this first reading, the coalition could return to talks. But whether or not that happens, we'll have to wait and see.
All right, live from Tel Aviv, our correspondent Jody Cohen, thank you. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.